Stand Topic, episode 10.5. And they said we'd never get to 11 episodes.
We haven't. Technically, we haven't yet.
Well, we've recorded 11 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're joined by our favorite nut job, Bob Ricotta.
How you doing?
Very well. The father of Stand Topic, comrade James Post.
How you doing?
As you can tell, James is fired up tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm Chris Gill, and we're just here to talk about everything that's happened in the last 8 days.
I'm not sure that's possible.
No.
I did just want to start out by noting that I saw a tweet earlier this week quoting President Donald Trump's statement from his commencement address at the Coast Guard Academy, where he said, quote, "No politician in history, and I say this with great surety, has been treated worse or more unfairly." Below it, without comment, was a photo of Nelson Mandela in prison.
Nice burn. Just a couple things to hit on before we get into all the developments. Couple sad items. Lead singer of Soundgarden, Audio Slave, Temple of the Dog, Chris Cornell died at the age of 52 this week. He had by far the best voice to come along during that grunge era. Top 5 all time.
And I know that Temple of the Dog was maligned by some, but his voice mixed with Eddie Vedder's, money.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And he created such a unique sound.
No question. And his songwriting was almost ethereal.
Yeah.
So that was
which is not a word that's often ascribed to grunge.
Not at all. No, they really stood out in that pack.
Exactly. It was lumped in with grunge, but he never sounded like it.
No, and Soundgarden didn't sound like grunge.
Certainly, no.
So that was massive loss.
And that just one more of these things where I understand the stress is so high and the stakes are so high in these careers, and there's so much temptation with drugs and alcohol, and who knows what's happening. But these people that we all value so much that somehow can't see value in themselves. It's so disappointing and so sad.
Yeah, it's
when
utterly
you find out
tragic.
they're gone.
And I've often said the desire to create and the desire to destroy seem to be two heads of the same coin. And, tortured genius. I don't know if Chris Cornell can be considered a genius, but he had demons and they won.
Yeah. I would say his body of work in anything he did with Soundgarden or Audio Slave, another band that people either really like or really didn't.
Really liked Audio Slave.
Absolutely. Should we do the comparison to Nirvana?
Is there a comparison?
I think Nirvana is the most overblown band in the history of rock and roll.
You took the bait.
I think Nirvana is historically significant, but when you compare the musical quality, Nirvana can't hold a candle.
The best guitarist in that band was the drummer. Also died this week, really tragic circumstance. Fox News founder Roger Ailes died after he had a fall in his home, and he died from the complications of internal bleeding.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just an awful way to go. And forget what you think about Fox News, but the guy changed the media landscape.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I didn't much care for him in life, but he had a family. He had people who cared about him, and I'll raise a glass to him and say farewell.
Yeah, and it's not like he went out gracefully and just died of old age that's a rough way to go out. And also, maybe somebody's career could be dying. Lawrence O'Donnell could get released from MSNBC.
Didn't hear that. What's going on there?
Just part of the purge?
Reportedly, because he has been he's been really rough on Trump. Like, brutally rough on Trump. More so than Rachel Maddow, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
And
is he starting to sound like Keith Olbermann's crazy web series?
A little bit.
That's too bad.
Yeah, so
Yeah, you've got to maintain the appearance that you're undertaking a journalistic
Yeah. I mean,
process of some kind.
Yeah.
I will always have respect for Larry because of his part on the West Wing. He's a writer for the West Wing.
And beat the crap out of a young Jed Bartlett.
It was one hit.
But back when
He had it coming.
I found him too strident. I found him too partisan and too strident, and I stopped watching him. And for me to say that says something.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, super big brain on the guy, but he really wanted you to know that he had a big brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of a more tame version of Oberman, for sure. Also, the last little note, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski from Morning Joe on MSNBC were talking to the media outlet, escapes me, but basically said once they just wrapped up they had Kellyanne Conway on. Shut her mic, cameras were shut off, she gets up, and she told them she needs a shower every time she defends Trump. And she never refers to him as the president or Donald Trump, as the client. I thought that was really telling about how everybody is starting to turn on Trump. I guess, according to Scarborough, her turning point was the leaked videotape with Billy Bush.
Really?
And that was kind of the last straw for her. And she's playing out the
That
string.
was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but it kind of leads into this last week of utter turmoil for the White House.
I never liked Kellyanne Conway, but you got to have a level of respect to take a client like Donald Trump and put him in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
She's got skills.
Those skills have been severely tested.
So my question is, do you think that after she's done with her position in the Trump administration, can she basically write her own ticket because of what she's accomplished? Or is she so tainted by Donald Trump that no one will want to touch her?
That's a really good question.
Depends on what kind of campaign you want to run.
I hear The Rock may be looking for somebody to run his campaign. She might fit in there.
Boy, she'd be between a rock and a hard place, wouldn't she? I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry. It was right there.
No, that was such a dad joke.
Well, I have 4 kids, so I guess I qualify.
How many of them do you acknowledge?
On any given day, 2.
Okay.
Oh, God, that's so bad.
And I won't say which 2. Jake, you're my favorite.
We knew that.
Let them all fight for your affection.
Jake's the only one you ever talk about.
So, after we wrapped up Friday's, or episode 9.5 a week ago Friday, everything went nuts. Like, all the things we were building to, just the revelations started coming down the pipe. Have you ever in your life witnessed anything like this in politics, in news, in anything?
I don't think anyone has. Not at this level. Because, as much as people want to compare this to Watergate was such a slow burn.
Yeah.
It took forever for everything to come out. It was months and months of stories from the Post, from Woodward and Bernstein, and then months and months of investigations on the Hill. Nothing like this, nothing this self-destructive, where everything is just kind of all coming out at once. Once the leak started, it was just the floodgates opening and everybody talking about everything, and none of it's good for the president.
None of it's good for the country. I mean,
no.
Well, I guess that depends on whether you think that having Donald Trump as president versus having to go through this, if the end result is getting rid of Donald Trump, I tend to think that Donald Trump in a 4-year presidency can do more damage to the country than the end result, which may or may not be impeachment.
Right. And, impeachment and him leaving the White House are two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There has never been a president that has left office because of impeachment. I mean, Richard Nixon came awfully close, but he resigned before he was found guilty.
Yeah.
So,
because basically, and you did the work, but impeachment is basically everybody acknowledging that you're an asshole.
basically, you need to have charges brought against you by the House of Representatives, and then you go to trial in the Senate, and you need 2/3 in the Senate to vote guilty, basically, before you're impeached.
And that process in the Senate would be presided over by Chief Justice John Roberts.
Correct.
In this case,
a Republican appointee.
Yeah.
And let's just, you would need an incredible amount of evidence for a House that is led by Republicans to vote for impeachment. I've only heard 2 House Republicans use the I word. I would have to think that the evidence would have to be overwhelming for this House to vote to impeach. Now, 2018 may be a different story if the House flips to Democratic control, but there's no paper trail, there's no smoking gun yet.
No, there is a ton of smoke, and nobody knows where the actual fire is.
And, this, we're already sort of shifting off topic. We haven't even gotten through the main there. But, you say 2018, the House shifts to Democratic control.
I said, I'm not saying that's a sure thing.
No, I'm not saying it is either. But if it did, would Democrats in the House have a strong reason to move toward impeachment?
Rather than propping up a puppet Donald Trump that's hurting the opposition party for an additional 2 years?
Yes, and get whatever candidate they want elected president.
Rather than having a Pence presidency for 2 years?
Yeah.
That's an excellent question, and I don't have an answer for that. I will say about my my Democratic brethren and sisterin? They have been incredibly measured, with a few exceptions, Maxine Waters and a few other outliers. They've been incredibly disciplined about impeachment. They have not used that word. Nancy Pelosi is saying, we want to gather all the facts. We're not even close to the impeachment yet. The Democrats are showing an unusual amount of discipline in this matter. I'm sure behind closed doors, they are just popping champagne corks, but they're actually being smart about this.
Well, they don't. There's no evidence of anything yet. There is a lot of circumstantial and things like that, but there is no rock solid evidence of anything.
When has that stopped Democrats before?
Yeah. Hello, cat. The cat wandered into the studio.
I don't know how that happens.
I don't know.
The lemur will take care of it.
I thought we got rid of the lemur.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, so you're back on your meds?
Different meds, but yeah. Anyway, where were we?
This all started when it was revealed that Trump leaked super highly classified information to visiting Russian diplomats in the White House the previous week.
And that's already an odd set of circumstances because technically the president can't leak anything.
No, he could declassify things.
He could walk into this room and tell us all the nuclear launch codes, and it would be perfectly legal.
Which he's invited to do. Yeah.
But no, the president decides what's classified. If the president says something to someone, they're cleared. The question is whether it was good judgment for him to give the information he did to the people that he did, and that's a whole other issue.
And I'm working on information that's 2 days old, which means it's a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But basically, I read that the information was so damaging that the press was asked not to report on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a month ago or so.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, this and our only ally in the Middle, he just burned our only ally in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Or our strongest ally in the Middle East, Israel. And I just find it a little bit ironic because for 8 years, President Obama was bashed by the right for not supporting Israel.
Yeah.
And 120 days into his presidency, and Trump is leaking intel and damaging Israeli intelligence gathering.
And potentially putting the life of someone from Israeli intelligence in immediate danger.
Yeah. And, jeopardizing an information gathering mission that could have yielded massive results.
Yeah.
I mean, they essentially got a mole into ISIS. And if you out that mole, I mean, all of a sudden, ISIS is clearing house, and that mission now that could have gotten you priceless info is trashed.
Yeah.
Because they're going to close ranks and what have you. But yeah, just, God, how can you be that bad at your job?
I do it every day, but I can't really explain it. But no, this, and it only got worse from there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's God, what day was it that we found out that he told the two Russians who were in the Oval Office at that time, who were Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Ambassador Sergei Kislyak?
Yes.
Did I get that right?
The Sergeys.
Yes.
They take their show on the road.
At what point this week did we find out that he told them that Comey was pushing him really hard on Russia, and now that pressure is off, and that Comey was a nut job?
I think that was Friday.
Yeah, the news that happened came out Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
But from that one meeting,
Yeah.
where no
Just one
U.S.
meeting.
journalists were allowed in, he blew up an investigation, or a covert mission, and really didn't help his own case about the campaign.
Oh no.
It's just unreal. And every day there was something new happening. There was another layer or layers added to this.
Yeah.
And you just have to wonder what's going to happen next week. I mean, he left on an airplane to go to Saudi Arabia yesterday. What's he going to do there, James?
So
Let's just mark it down. This is Saturday night, May 20th at 9:09 p.m.
yes,
Just so when people listen to this after we get it posted.
when we're at war.
Yes.
No, so Trump today kicked off a 9-day overseas trip, which sources inside his own administration were telling the press they were afraid was too long for his attention span. A 9-day overseas trip that started today in Saudi Arabia, also includes stops in Israel, which will be interesting.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
The Vatican and Brussels. In Brussels, he'll be meeting with NATO leaders, which will
good.
also be interesting.
Since he wants to defund them or something.
And then the G7 summit in Italy on the island of Sicily. So
Bob's old stomping ground.
Hometown of my family.
yes, I assumed mafiosos.
I know a guy.
So yeah, he started this trip today. First leg was Saudi Arabia. He brought a massive entourage with him.
I saw that.
He brought basically his entire senior staff and several cabinet members on an overseas trip. You don't do that.
No.
You leave somebody behind to run the store. This seems like a guy who can't operate without that level of staffing.
Yeah, that's like Bartlett bringing.
At least
along.
that's the visual.
Yeah. Well, you got Pence. He left back. Pence will handle up on this.
Oh yeah. Well prepared by being governor of Indiana, a state where no one lives. including me, who lived there for 14 years.
Well, except this month, Indy 500 month.
That's true. So while in Saudi Arabia, there was a big business conference and stuff where a lot of American companies announced investments in Saudi Arabia. There's about $200 billion in potential business that was done there. That was set up to coincide with this trip. But the main news coming out of this was that Trump agreed to a $110 billion sale of arms to the Saudis. Washington Post reporting that a lot of these sales are relatively routine. We've been selling arms to the Saudis for a long time, but others not so much. One of the things that we apparently agreed to sell them was THAAD missile defense technology. THAAD, THAAD, which stands for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, is basically, that we know of, that's unclassified, our most advanced anti-missile defense system. And there had never been, according to the Washington Post, any serious consideration of sale of this technology, this weapon system, if you want to call it that, anti-weapon system.
It's Star Wars.
Sort of, but yeah. Never been any serious consideration of sale of this technology to the Saudis or really anyone else. This is technology that is based in the U.S. There are also locations in South Korea, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. However, those three that are overseas are all U.S. operations on U.S. bases. The system was not sold to those countries. So this would be the first time that this technology, that's sort of the peak of our ability to defend ourselves against an incoming missile, would be sold to another country outright.
Yeah, so they can pour through it, get familiar with it, and
potentially reverse engineer it, sell it to someone else.
I was going to say manipulate it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Like maybe Iran?
Oh, not the Saudis.
No?
But they could certainly sell it to a third party who could sell it to Iran.
because us leaving our technology in the Middle East always works out so well.
Yes. The Saudis themselves, in the 70s, we would leave stuff over there and they would just take it.
Yeah.
They would nationalize US pickup trucks, and just because they could.
Or in Iraq, where we armed the Iraqi forces, and when they were overthrown, they just would abandon bases.
Yeah.
And leave all our tech there for ISIS to get a hold of.
And the thing that came to my mind in our production meeting before the podcast, Saudi Arabia and Israel are not. There's no love lost between those two countries.
No, but no real open hostilities either. They're both at sort of not the Saudis are obviously pretty extreme theocrats, but they're also mostly interested in money. And, the Israelis being a developed, relatively free society, depending on whether or not you're a Palestinian, are also interested in commerce and making money. So they mostly stay out of each other's way.
True, but as you pointed out, the Saudis are interested in money. What if Hamas or Hezbollah offers them money for this tech?
I'm not sure. I don't know enough about the technology to know how useful THAAD would be against the kinds of attacks that the Israelis use against Hamas or Hezbollah.
No, I'm thinking more in terms of how to foil it, how to jam it.
Yeah, I suppose that. Yeah.
It's unprecedented. It's weird.
And it's possible that once this deal is completely worked out, I don't think it undoes the whole issue, but it's possible that this could be worked out where there's some kind of black boxing, where there are parts of the technology that this is technology that is available to the Saudis to use, but there are parts that they can't access, parts that they're unable to service on their own.
I'm sure Donald Trump has thought of that.
Yeah, but the Pentagon will.
Yeah. Do we?
So there's a chance that there's that level of oversight that might still come into play.
And maybe there'll just be a part missing and it won't work. Oh, we forgot to put the spark plug in.
Who left the cotter pin out? So that's day one.
Yeah, day one of his trip, and isn't he supposed to visit the Vatican?
He is supposed to visit the Vatican, and not really, just from Twitter, not direct exchanges, but things they've said about each other on Twitter. He and the Pope, not the best of buds.
No, the Pope has issued some very not subtle barbs against Donald Trump during the campaign.
But also said, what was this, a week ago before the sky started falling? He did say to some media outlets that he wasn't going to take this as an opportunity to sort of proselytize to Donald Trump, to try and get him to change his ways, that he was going to treat this like any other sort of state meeting.
Well, sure. No, the Pope wants the same technology that Saudi Arabia has.
Well, maybe.
This is the Sistine Chapel, and over here we have more relics. Good, you have a good time? Goodbye. That's...
The Pope is Hispanic, right?
Who said I was doing the Pope?
Okay.
I thought you were being a tour guide, but I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, that's it. He gets the standard tour. Nobody's going to kowtow to him at the Vatican.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was a step behind.
So racist?
Like, he'll get...
Not racist?
You decide, Bob.
Since I'm the only Italian in the room, not racist.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Sweet.
We're only 10 minutes in.
It's the first time that Chris has been not racist so far.
Progress, guys.
We got 45 minutes. Give him time.
And just one other fun note from the Saudi Arabia trip. The AP did a little background story on Trump's trip to Saudi Arabia, citing sources inside the country saying that they were having to make sure that they had steak with ketchup available for the president to eat, which is apparently his favorite thing to eat. Well done, steak.
Yeah.
So that if he wouldn't eat the local delicacies that would normally be served for a state visit, there would be something available for him to eat.
Did they still eat chilled monkey brains?
Oh, you stole my joke.
Nice.
God.
You're right.
A,
right.
racist.
That was in India.
B, India.
Yeah.
C, bad movie.
And still not the worst Indiana Jones movie.
No. That's why they had to make Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. To elevate the legacy of Temple of Doom.
So, Chris, how do you like your steak? Just
I like mine rare to medium rare.
okay.
Pink, no blood.
James?
Medium rare. If it's prime rib, I may actually take it blue.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm a medium rare guy too. So it's nice to see that we're all civilized and know how to eat a steak, and
Yeah.
our president's an idiot who puts ketchup on his steak.
Ketchup on steak.
And
That should have disqualified him from office.
This is a guy who has sold steaks with his name on them. Doesn't know what a good steak tastes like, because if you've only ever eaten a well done steak, you don't know what steak tastes like.
Another funny note that came out of Monday's revelation with the Sergey show.
Yeah.
The aides in the press room had to, in the White House press room, had to turn up the volume on the televisions so loud to drown out the shouting from Steve Bannon, Sean Spicer, and what's her name?
Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Thank you. The three of them were going at it big time in an adjoining room.
And in response to which leak? I can't even remember now.
It was Monday's leak.
Okay, the original.
Yeah. So yeah, just again this week there were so many balls in the air. I don't know how to work
all of the balls were on the floor.
Oh,
No one was successfully keeping any balls in the air this week.
except the news industry. I mean, thank God for them.
I have been shocked, and I'm not the first person to say this. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter say it, but most of them work in DC reporting, so I'm not sure it counts. This has really been sort of a golden age of DC reporting.
Yeah.
Considering how much they've been shut out, it's almost made them better.
Yeah. And
The inability to just go to the White House and get an answer to a question, the requirement to actually dig things up, feels like it's like reawakened the love of journalism.
thank God. I mean, if we can take a positive out of this anywhere, that's it.
And if any time in our history we needed a healthy fourth estate, it's now.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that the news media has been aided by the leaks from the White House.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Of which there have been plenty.
it's a sieve over there.
But like, how hard did Woodward and or Bernstein have to work to get Deep Throat to talk to them when nobody else would? Like that.
He approached them.
But that was one leak, one inside source
Yeah.
for the biggest story that people thought would ever happen to an administration. And now,
Little did we know.
yeah. Now, I mean, there are probably leaks out there that are
I
getting
feel like
turned
they should
down.
just put Nixon back in office now. I feel like we all owe him an apology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wasn't so bad.
No, not by comparison.
Just a little paranoid.
Yeah.
There are people who will claim he was our last liberal president.
What?
Jimmy Carter?
The actual policies that he enacted, the Clean Air Act,
Yeah, right.
the
Right.
Clean Water Act. I'm obviously stealing, for those who follow it, I'm obviously stealing this factoid. It's not a factoid. A factoid technically is something that is not true. This little piece of information from last week tonight with John Oliver. But Nixon signed a law that made it so that the Medicare program would guarantee that anyone who needed kidney dialysis would be covered regardless of their financial circumstances. Before that, people would literally die waiting to get to a dialysis machine, much less a kidney transplant. Really, a lot of progressive stuff got done under Nixon's watch.
Interesting. And I think that goes to the shifting definition of liberal
Yeah.
and conservative. And you know, there was a time when the two parties worked together to pass legislation.
Yeah. Well, and there was a time when conserving the natural environment was considered a conservative principle.
Did you ever think you'd long for the halcyon days of the Nixon administration?
Yeah, when you tell people what happened during like Clinton's administration, they're like, "Oh, so you had another Republican president?" It's like, no, he was a bleeding heart. He enacted NAFTA. So yeah, it's weird how the sands keep shifting underneath these political parties,
And I'm curious to see when popular opinion starts eroding. According to, Slate. According to Slate, Trump.
Slate again.
I'm sorry, I like it. I think it's a fairly reliable news source. Trump is currently at 41% approval rating.
so it's gone up.
No, actually, it's
varied so much depending on who you looked at.
yeah,
Because he was in the 30s.
38.
Yeah.
I mean, that's margin of error kind of stuff.
Okay.
Nate Silver would tell you that's,
I don't think I trust Nate Silver anymore after the
Nate
last
Silver was the
election.
only one who predicted that Trump had a chance at winning the presidency.
Had a chance.
Well,
Yeah. Anyway.
okay. Anyway, Nixon was at 24% when he resigned. So yeah, Trump's approval rating among Republicans has fallen 8 points from 15% disapproval to 23% disapproval. So things are starting to shift. Only 22% of Trump voters approve of his revealing Israeli intelligence to the Russians. And Slate is giving Donald Trump a 35% chance of leaving office before finishing his first term.
That 22%'s a little high for me. In the second poll that you read there, that's
About his
approving of, like 22% of the people thought that it was cool for him to do that.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Jesus.
there's a base of true believers who will say that
Right. Yeah.
it's okay for Trump to murder my mother because he's the president.
Yeah.
So,
And he gave out some really cool hats.
Plus, it's your mother. What do they care?
that's a good point. But the point is that the sands are shifting, but
Like
still,
sands through the hourglass.
so are the days of our.
are the days of our lives.
And James has drank the least amount of vodka. We'll just put that out there.
But a 23% disapproval rating among Republicans. Eventually, lawmakers have to start following that. So far the GOP has been very disciplined about supporting the president. But once they just got off a recess, once they come back home and start hearing from their constituents again, I believe that his support is going to further erode, which may dovetail into the whole American Health Care Act vote, which we may not be done with yet.
Yeah, we're gonna get a CBO report on that Wednesday. James, what do you know?
What I know is that over the last week, apparently some House Republicans were surprised to learn, which they learned from questions asked to them by reporters, that the American Health Care Act actually hadn't been sent to the Senate yet for consideration. That's because the bill still doesn't have a CBO score. Speaker Paul Ryan said that, let me make sure I get this right. He did a radio interview that they hadn't sent the bill to the Senate because they want to make sure the CBO score has the minimum $2 billion in deficit savings required to go through the reconciliation process. That's the process that allows them to put something through the Senate without risk of filibuster. All they need is a 51 vote majority. But something odd happened with this bill. This bill was supposed to save $150 billion on the deficit, but some amendments got thrown in it at the last minute on the second vote in order to get it to pass. One of those amendments was the ability for states to opt out of the minimum coverage requirements that were included under Obamacare. The list of things that if you're gonna sell health insurance policy, you have to at least cover these things. You have to cover emergency care. You have to cover maternity care, those kinds of things. States could opt out of that and basically allow insurance companies to sell insurance that covers nothing if they wanted to, if people would buy it. The problem with that is if that does happen, and if a lot of states choose to opt out, the market could be flooded with basically substandard but cheap insurance plans, and a lot more people might take advantage of the tax credits that are offered under the AHCA than they anticipated when they said that this was going to cut the deficit by $150 billion. If the CBO takes that view and takes that into consideration, there are some analysts saying there's a chance they could not reach that $2 billion threshold that would allow them to go forward under reconciliation. If that happens, they don't want to send this bill to the Senate. They don't want to subject it to a potential defeat, which is why the Speaker is holding back the bill and not giving it to the Senate yet. They don't want to do it until they see the score.
What a mess.
If that happens, if they get a CBO score that doesn't meet that minimum, they may have to make more changes to the bill, which means another vote. And it would have to be a shift away from the direction that they shifted in to get the votes that they got.
Yeah, the amendment you were talking about.
It passed by a razor-thin margin before.
Yeah. And the amendment you were talking about was in order to get the Freedom Caucus on board, correct?
Yes.
So to any move away from that amendment, and you lose some of the conservative members. Yeah. And I mean, we've already talked about this. The House bill is dead. on arrival in the Senate anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're going to write their own health care bill. It's just
going to be terrible optics for the House if they end up having to take this up again, and if they end up having to drop it again. If they end up, I can't see it actually going up for a vote and being defeated, but if they end up with nothing to present to the Senate because they have to take this back up and they can't get anything through.
So the big photo op after the passing is another mission accomplished moment.
The uncapping of the Budweisers and the celebration in the Rose Garden.
Uh-huh.
The Trump administration needs a win, especially right now.
Oh.
And they just can't seem to get out of their own way.
No.
What level of win would actually cut through this at this point?
Free puppies?
Ooh, I'd like free puppy.
Who wouldn't?
Honestly, I think that if they passed some kind of meaningful tax reform, some kind of jobs bill, some kind of infrastructure bill, I think there are enough.
Getting Spain to take Florida back?
Do you think that's possible?
I don't know.
But seriously, though, I think there are enough people out there who would say, unless criminal charges can be brought against Donald Trump, they're willing to say, the guy may be a little sleazy. He may not operate completely above board, but he did things that were good for our country and good for me. So I'm willing to overlook the warts. So I can definitely see a scenario in which a couple big bills pass and, unless something points directly to Trump as far as collusion or obstruction of justice, that people forget.
Has anyone considered that maybe everybody is a criminal but Trump in this scenario? Like Michael Flynn, Mike Pence to a degree, who is now a person of interest in this. Jared Kushner is a person of interest in this investigation. Yeah. Everyone keeps gunning for Trump like he's some kind of great mastermind.
Oh,
I really think everybody but Trump could go down in this.
It's completely possible that.
See, I don't see it as that possible, because I still feel like if that many people from his own campaign were involved, then even if he had nothing to do with this, even if he knew nothing, it really seems like Comey has something to say.
Yeah.
And if Comey says Trump tried to wave him off, if he's willing to say that under oath in front of a Senate committee, that's the ball game to me. I mean, not necessarily impeachment, but as far as Trump being insulated from this, you're no longer insulated at that point. You tried to cover it up, whether you were involved or not.
I'm just putting it out there as...
And I guess I can agree with you to a point. I don't know that Trump did any of these things consciously. I think he was just ignorant. He didn't know he was breaking laws.
Or he's just really afraid of that P video.
The Russian
hooker P video. Like, maybe that's the only thing he's trying to protect himself from. And
why
everybody
are you
else
so interested in that?
Because it's hilarious. How do you not find this interesting at all?
Have you seen it?
I don't know. Have you?
I was just wondering if you'd gone looking.
Or is this one of the things that, like, you just don't say out loud? You've seen it, right?
No.
Okay.
2 Trumps, 1 cup.
Damn it, you stole my joke.
We're even now.
So, what do we, aside from fun stuff, looking ahead to this week, where can this thing possibly go this week?
We're still waiting to hear if there's going to be any announcement of a new FBI head.
Who is the guy they have in the running? His name keeps popping up for this. Is just another quirky turn in a really weird political career.
Former Democratic, at one point independent Senator Joe Lieberman,
former vice presidential
nominee.
candidate.
Yep.
That's
Among the finalists, according from Trump's own mouth, among the finalists to lead the FBI after the departure of Comey. A few things that make this an odd choice. One, Lieberman is 75, not necessarily too old, to do the job, but certainly at the top end of the age range for a job like that. And he has never worked in law enforcement of any kind in any capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So my main response, I started to take notes on this topic, and really my last note was just, huh?
Yeah, this.
I'm not sure what makes this a good choice for Trump. I'm not sure what makes this a good choice for anybody.
I don't. Joe Lieberman's like the Forrest Gump of modern politics.
He just happens to
He
be,
just keeps popping up in these situations.
and
Well, if you just keep running, you're going to be everywhere.
and I'll pose this to you guys because I have no earthly idea what the answer is. What's in it for Joe Lieberman? What would he benefit from this?
People will remember who Joe Lieberman is.
That's enough.
I really don't know.
I don't get it. I don't know. I don't see what the attraction of being an FBI director in a Trump administration.
Yeah, and especially when at this point, functionally, Robert Mueller is the FBI director.
Yeah.
Have we even discussed that yet?
No, we have
No,
not.
Didn't. No.
So this was what, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
It's hard to.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, someone whose name has come up more than once before in this story, announced with very little prior warning to the White House, which was as it should be, that he was appointing as special counsel former FBI director for 12 years, Robert Mueller, second longest serving FBI director behind J. Edgar Hoover. Well-respected guy.
Unlike J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah. And appointed special counsel, not special prosecutor, Michael Moore. I saw Michael Moore on Twitter saying, "Stop saying special counsel. He's a special prosecutor." And a White House reporter tweeting back at Michael Moore saying, "Special counsel is a specific position that is designated under federal law that has specific powers and responsibilities, which include prosecuting, but are not limited to that."
This is why I avoid Michael Moore on Twitter.
Yeah.
But no, this is actually, despite the sort of weaker sounding title, it's actually a much broader position. Special prosecutor would be sort of like
A scalpel.
I'm thinking more like an attack dog. Something you point at a specific thing and say, go deal with that. Special counsel can kind of just go out and fish and put together, if they choose to prosecute, put together whatever they want. So a guy who's going to have a lot of power.
Yeah.
A guy who's going to be on a lot of people's front doorsteps, metaphorically at least.
A guy who I hope has never talked to Russians.
Somehow I doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen his picture lately. He's the most humorless looking man.
Well, I don't know if we're.
I feel like this is a guy who has like a Sam the Eagle level of seriousness about his American patriotic duties.
So I don't know if we're ready to move on or not yet, but I'd like to bring up something just for fun, something that hasn't been discussed a lot, but something to be considered, and that is it's also a subject of one of my favorite West Wing arcs, the 25th Amendment, which would remove a president from office if he's deemed incapable of carrying out his duties as president. Now, we're not there yet. We're not even close to there yet. But, what are the chances?
That would almost certainly have to be a medical designation of some kind.
You think?
Not?
You think
Well, I could see somebody pushing for, mentally unfit.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
That's what I mean by medical.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think anything short of a diagnosed mental illness, and that's such a squidgy field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there for if you have a stroke. It's not. I don't think it's a useful tool for anyone in this situation.
Okay.
Yet.
I did want to bring up one other thing that sort of slipped by everybody. It's not really a new thing. Jason Chaffetz of Utah, who's been in the House of Representatives since 2008, started about 3-4 weeks ago, he said he wasn't going to run for re-election. And then things started coming out. Maybe he was looking at a job at Fox News. And this week he announced that he's stepping down June 30th. He's leaving office. He chairs the House Government Oversight Committee.
And the Republicans were very keen to put him into very visible positions.
Yeah, well, he's made himself visible since he's,
He was the Republican who made
was the
the
face
awful iPhone comment.
yeah, but he was the face of Benghazi.
Yeah.
He put himself front and center, and would presumably have had a large role to play if there was continued investigation into this Trump-Russia connection. And the timing of his decision to leave is questionable at best.
Yeah.
Some talk that people in the Republican Party were both unhappy that he wasn't supporting Trump strongly enough, and others saying that he wasn't doing enough to actually follow the investigation. Like he was getting it from both sides on this. Just within the Republicans. So that speculation he was going to Fox News sort of died down. I haven't heard much more of that in the last couple of weeks. Most recent speculation I've seen is that he is considering a run for governor of Utah in 2020. That may be something that you actually do need this much time to set up and establish, although it is Utah.
Yeah.
One thing no one believes is his own claim that he wants to spend more time with his family.
No one ever believes that.
No.
I don't care what your profession is. If that's your reason for getting out, nobody ever believes that.
You only have to look at the man's face to know that he's not a man who loves his family.
Wow.
God. Okay, no more vodka for James. He gets mean on it. So moving on, what'd you guys do fun this last week? Bob?
Well, it wasn't fun, but I went to my first National Organization for Women meeting.
Wasn't fun, you say?
Fun.
It was not fun.
You hate women? Should I cut that pause?
Absolutely not.
Do you hate them now?
I see what you did there. Very clever. I was the only person in the room with a penis, I think. Although there was a couple women whose Adam's apple looked like they swallowed a Rubik's Cube.
Bob Ricotta, officially no longer a member of the National Organization of Women.
We found out how global warming affects women. It was interesting.
Does it have some kind of different anatomical effect on them than it does on men?
No, it has more to do with... I don't know. I couldn't follow the logic.
Socioeconomic.
Socioeconomics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially in countries or regions of the world where women just aren't highly valued like they are in Western cultures.
To be honest, I was thinking about boobs most of the time. So,
any single ladies?
Anywho,
okay.
So yeah, I did that this week, and I finished out Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Really
strong season. Really strong. If
probably their best.
James, I know you stepped away. This might be a good reintroduction point.
When do I need to get back into it? Do I have to jump back in mid season 3 where I left?
I don't. Well,
Go season 4. Do seasons 4 and 5. And
Am I going to understand what's going on?
we'll fill you.
Yeah,
We'll help you.
We'll fill you in.
Okay.
Because there's some Grant Ward stuff that you need to know, but pretty much it's a standalone season, don't you think?
God, Grant
Yeah.
Ward isn't dead by then.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers. But there's some background on Grant Ward you need to know before watching this season. But
Well, I know he became host to a thing.
Yeah.
okay,
So
not
you're
the thing,
No.
because that's that's Fox, isn't
Yeah,
it?
Fox owns The Thing. Or just Thing. Because The Thing is the movie.
Not to be confused with Swamp Thing. That's DC, right? And there's Man Thing, or
Man Thing was Marvel's weak-ass attempt at Swamp Thing. Because
Right.
Alan Moore just crushed it on Swamp Thing. And Marvel's like, why are we doing that?
Because we don't have Alan Moore.
Yeah. James, what'd you do fun?
Mostly moved furniture.
Okay.
God, we are the most boring people on this planet.
I did take...
I haven't even played any games this week. Like,
Neither did I. I played no games. I took Bob's recommendation and started Master of None.
That's not where I thought you were going when I heard Master.
Of puppets. Really fun show.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have a
I think the reviews have been overblown about how it's a game changer and all.
no,
It's just a fun show.
Yeah, I have a deeper level of appreciation for Aziz Ansari.
Yeah, for sure.
He
some
can,
really good gags.
yeah, he can act.
Yeah.
I mean, within a range. I'm not going to ask him to do Hamlet or anything, but
Right.
if he's playing a certain character type, he does a good job.
And I really like
as long as he's playing a brown person, he's fine.
Well, they do a lot from the perspective of first generation Americans.
Yeah.
And that part is really cool.
Yeah. I mean,
I found that really interesting.
I like and dislike the fact that his parents played his parents on the show.
Yeah.
They're not actors.
Not at all. And it showed.
Yeah, but it also, there was a connection. There was a relationship that you can't fake. Or maybe you can. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm on my second vodka cranberry.
What are you looking forward to this week?
I think this is a good week for me to start season 2 of Better Call Saul. It's finally on Netflix, and I've got some time on my hands, so Better Call Saul is my
You
plan.
won't regret it. James, what are you moving?
There will be that. I'm looking forward to the moving being done and me being able to enjoy my new, motorized reclining couch.
That's
Never realized how much work it was to pull a lever and recline a couch until I didn't have to do it anymore. It's like years have been added back onto my life. Hopefully we'll get a chance to play some games. Have a little free time for that. Looks like Monday night I will be attending Dr. Stephen Coleman's Political Pundit Night.
Oh,
really?
I seem to have volunteered myself to cover that event. No one listening knows what that is, but that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay. We know.
But obviously looking forward to the next shitstorm. Because
Yeah.
I think part of the reason I just haven't needed any dedicated entertainment lately is because there's so much to be found just going on Twitter, turning on the television, opening a web browser and going to the Hill.
It's utterly gripping. It's just
Yeah.
a fascinating thing that we're living through.
And I don't want to downplay the effect it has on our society, on people who are actually going to be hurt by policies that
Right.
are not enacted. But God, so much of this has been funny as hell.
Yes.
And I would have said a week ago that as far as sheer volume, you weren't going to top last week, and they topped it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They just blew it right past it. So I gotta believe that this week that's just ended, as far as sheer amount of stuff coming out and bombshells and twists and turns, you can't get better than this week.
Well, okay. I know we've moved past the main political discussion, but I do want to bring up one last question. since we're looking ahead to next week, which is the president's going to be out of the country for all of this next week.
Party in the White House. Sorry.
Haha. What can happen? Do you think it's going to be quiet because of that?
I think the Russian thing will be quiet while everyone does their work putting this case and this investigation together. I think it's okay. We've gotten the bombshells out of the way. Now they're well, yeah.
Yeah.
But the hilarity that's going to ensue from his trip of how he offends some, foreign dignitaries or how he steps on his own dick again. That is going to be,
you don't even have to do that in Saudi Arabia. All you have to do is give the thumbs up. That's incredibly offensive. One of the president's favorite gestures. And somebody tweeted a picture of the state background notes on taboos in Saudi Arabia and pointed that out, that's like the last thing on the list is the thumbs up is an incredibly offensive gesture. And it's like, there's a picture. Actually, there's another, I didn't make this connection until just now. Saw a picture of Donald Trump riding an escalator someplace in Saudi Arabia and giving the thumbs up to a White House reporter. So that taboo already broken.
So obviously this week, super looking forward to the best day of auto racing on the planet.
Yeah.
The Sunday before Memorial Day, where you wake up to the Monaco Grand Prix, go into the Indianapolis 500, and then you finish with the World 600 in Charlotte, North Carolina. 3 marquee events on the same day. If you're a gearhead or even mildly interested in auto racing, best day of the year. Also looking forward to binging on The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt Season 3 on Netflix. One of the most underrated comedies on television right now.
I haven't. It's on my list. It's on the spreadsheet.
For the listeners, Bob Ricotta has an infamously long Netflix list. And how many times do you actually get to take things off it?
Never.
It just keeps growing.
It's an OCD thing at this point because I've created a Netflix list. No, okay, so I've created a spreadsheet with movies, television, books, and music that I want to catch up on. With the movies, I plug in the Rotten Tomatoes score. And so I can sort it by Rotten Tomatoes score.
Smart.
Well, I've got this thing where I'm afraid that I'm going to waste time watching a movie that I don't love and skipping a movie that I do love and never watching it because I've watched lesser entertainment.
I get that.
So I want to make sure that what I'm watching is quality, and meanwhile I watch reruns of Seinfeld and don't watch anything on my list. So, it's become a kind of a academic exercise at this point.
Well, I'll trade you Master of None for Kimmy Schmidt. I started Master of None. You got to start Kimmy Schmidt.
That's fair.
So, yeah, those are the big things on my radar. Now, you also we'll tack this on, maybe edit it out. I don't know. We're going to do full spoilers now that all 3 of us have seen Guardians Volume 2.
I have seen it.
Okay.
Bob Ricotta, tell us what you thought.
Spoil
away.
I liked it. As I said in the production meeting, there was a lot to unpack, and I really definitely need a second viewing for me to create an appreciation for what I viewed. It's dark. It's not as much fun as the first one. I like the dynamic of the whole team together in the first one, and in the second one, they were kind of off doing their own things for much of the movie. But the second one hit you right in the feels. It hit you in places you didn't think you'd be touched by a Guardians movie, and not just in the loins, although those were touched too.
One of the biggest shock moments in that movie is when Ego tells Peter Quill that he put the tumor in his mom's brain.
Yep.
And you could literally hear gasps in the theater.
Yeah.
And it was just so well done and so well executed. I think this one's going to outlive the first one the way Empire outlived Star Wars.
Entirely possible.
Yeah, because no one remembers Star Wars anymore. But no, I guess people are just expect this from me now, so I guess there's
Oh,
not any point in even apologizing in advance. No, as you talked about the moments where it really hits you in the feels, and the hug between Gamora and Nebula was actually like, I thought, a really powerful moment.
Super
Like,
well shot. The way Nebula didn't even know how to hug.
yeah, exactly.
And honestly, I thought the Gamora Nebula storyline could have been left out of the movie.
No.
No,
I mean,
especially going into Infinity War.
Well, that's
yeah,
it.
you need
that.
those too.
that's the thing is I understand that they're world building and this leads into something bigger, but if you're taking the movie Guardians of the Galaxy 2 as its own piece of work, I thought they could have left that storyline out and expanded on the other storylines a little bit more.
I didn't leave there thinking anything was underdeveloped.
No, and I'd really like to see Nebula's story and character move forward, just because I feel like Gillen has more to contribute than just gruffly being angry.
Yeah, she's really great in that role, and she's cute even under all the Nebula makeup.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's, I'm a Doctor Who fan. I loved her on that. She has more range than they've given her the space to explore, and obviously that's the character she's playing.
Right.
But I'm hoping that'll move to a place where she can be funny and she can be more part of the team, and we'll see if that happens. But it'd be nice to see that character develop more.
What did you guys think of the of Baby Groot as a character?
The only thing that was weird, if I'm gonna, obviously he's gonna sell all the toys and all the
Sure,
merch, all the merch.
It's adorbs.
And some really funny gags. The only thing that kind of bothered me was his intelligence level seemed to ebb and flow.
Right. As the story
Yeah.
necessitated.
Yeah, and it was, in a way, I feel like they thought they had to get him out of the way because he became so much the heart of the first movie.
Right.
The way that played out. They didn't want to be doing the same thing again, and they didn't want that overwhelming physical force that was, sort of a Deus Ex Machina almost in some scenes to be, which should be Drax anyway.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
But I think they decided to leave him baby because of they wanted to give other people more space
And sell all the merch.
Well, that too.
And I, when talking about,
But I don't see Gunn going for just that. I think he goes along with that because he thinks there's something he can do in the screenplay with that idea.
Sure.
and when talking about superhero comic book movies, I hate to use the word suspension of disbelief because basically the whole thing is a suspension of disbelief. I love the way the opening scene was shot.
Yes.
But that Baby Groot should have been killed several times during that whole sequence.
He got curb stomped in the scene with the Ravagers. The guy curb stomped him.
Yeah.
And all he did, he got like a broken limb. Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry I get it, but I do.
But I really liked that. That opening sequence was brilliant.
yes,
You can quibble about what song they put over it, but
I don't think you can. I think they picked exactly the right one.
Huh.
I don't remember this opening song.
What was it?
It's
so memorable.
Yellow.
Mr. Blue Sky.
Mr. Blue
Yeah.
Sky.
Okay, that was okay.
But that brings us up to probably the weakest
lyrically,
point.
it doesn't have anything to do with the scene.
No, but
the
it's
music.
it's a jaunty
Yeah.
tune that you bop your head to while mayhem.
It's not like the Redbone song from the beginning of Volume 1 had anything to do with that scene,
But if there's a weak point that a lot of people have been really disappointed in is the soundtrack. The soundtrack isn't as bouncy and like that first soundtrack you could just listen to and just have a hell of a good time at a party. You can't do that with Volume 2 soundtrack.
No, you can't. And
But those songs
Most
fit the
movie
movie.
soundtracks, you can't. You have to have pacing. You have to have highs and lows. You can't just have, what kind of movie do you end up with if you've got happy pop songs in every scene all the way through?
Guardians Volume 1.
I would say Moon Age Daydream is not a happy pop song.
Okay. James Gunn turned that into a pop song.
Sure. And my favorite part of the movie was the Groot stinger.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was awesome. Especially as two men who have raised teenagers.
Yeah.
know.
that was a little slice of heaven.
Yeah, the Stingers, they went deep cuts with a couple of them, which, pleased me very much. But the Adam Warlock thing, James Gunn swears he's not in Infinity Wars, which...
How can he not be in Infinity? He was.
I know.
Yeah.
That boggled my mind, but he's saving him, I guess, for Guardians 3. So maybe...
Is Guardians 3 supposed to come out after?
After both Infinity Wars.
What is...
I don't understand. Unless they're telling a fundamentally completely different story than what they're borrowing from in the comics. I don't understand how you get through that without Adam Warlock.
I don't either. I don't know how they are gonna resolve. I'm guessing since they're doing 2 movies that Thanos gets the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Like, how else are you gonna do 2 movies on this?
Which gauntlet?
The Infinity Gauntlet.
The gauntlet that he finds, or the gauntlet that was already in
Asgard?
In Asgard.
The one he finds. I think the one in Asgard was a throwaway reference before they knew they were ever doing anything with Thanos. That was just an Easter egg that they threw in, I believe.
There's still one Infinity Stone unaccounted for, correct?
That is correct.
Which one? I don't remember.
Oh, God. I'd really have to... Because I don't know which one the movie... Like the Tesseract. Which gem is that? I'm still not sure.
That's true.
The Aether, I don't know which gem that's supposed to be. The only one I know for sure is the Soul Gem.
That's Visions.
Is Visions. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other ones represent. I think the Tesseract is a space gem. Oh, God. Which one does Doctor Strange have? He has the time gem.
Yes.
Okay, so there's 3 out of 5. The Aether, I'm not sure what that is. And the purple one that was in the first Guardians,
Yeah.
I don't know which one that is.
But they are accounted for then.
5 are, but there are 6.
Okay.
So we still have one more stone to go.
Black Panther? Is that... I don't know.
Boy, that seems like a reach.
Yeah, it does. But where would it
I
fit
would
in?
have to say Ragnarok or in the first Infinity.
Maybe.
Maybe he already has it and we don't know.
Maybe.
That'd be a cop-out, But yeah, overall...
I have been keeping this up my ass this entire time.
That's the worst Brolin voice. You can do better, James. Work on it. You work on that, I'll work
Which
on my
Brolin?
replay. Josh.
I was doing James.
Oh.
Yeah, it still sucked.
And it was a pretty poor Christopher Walken if you were going for the Pulp Fiction reference. But I've been carrying this uncomfortable.
No, I wasn't.
Because that's where my mind went. So we cannot leave our Guardians discussion without talking about Drax. He was the MVP of the movie.
I like how they fleshed him out. I still have major problems with how they use his strength, what his strength level is. We still don't know because they handled it very poorly in the first Guardians.
Okay. I don't share your desire to see everybody's stat block.
Why? I need to see that shit.
That's not real.
Gamora picked up this giant gun off a spaceship on her shoulder.
She's Gamora. She's a daughter of Thanos.
She's an assassin.
A strong one.
So we're saying basically Gamora has equal to or greater strength than Drax, who in the comics should have gone easily toe-to-toe with Ronan in the first one pre-Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
We don't know. That drives me fucking crazy that I don't know.
They can do whatever they want with his power level in the movies. I think your problem is the same as mine, which is that there's no baseline.
No, none.
There's no regular people. We never see Drax fight. You know, in the first movie, we see Drax fight Ronan
and lose.
Badly lose.
But that's, you know, if they decide that Ronan is more powerful than him, that's their right to do. But it's the Worf effect again. It's because I'm a nerd. The Worf effect is a term used for the fact that on Star Trek: The Next Generation, the character of Worf, the Klingon security chief, whenever they wanted to establish that some of their character was really badass, they would have them beat up Worf. The problem being that they never actually had Worf do anything that impressive, so the impression was just left that Worf was just a wimp, because all that ever happened was that other people beat the shit out of him to prove that they were strong.
Well, as far as Drax goes, there was the prison break scene in the first Guardians where he was fucking people up.
Yeah.
Then there was a scene when
normal people.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, they're intergalactic types from all over.
But
so he was beating up a bunch of different kinds of aliens.
But they never established that these people had any special powers or...
He beat up Ronan's Deadites. Is that what they were called? Or something?
Yeah, whatever
something.
that is.
Okay.
On the ship when they first invaded the ship. So he was, again, fucking people up, but we don't know what... Yeah, we never get a good base of...
You just need to know if his strength is 22 or 24.
I do. Well, in tonnage, because in the Marvel handbooks...
Yeah, they go by...
They would go by ton.
And...
You need to know if his strength is higher than the Undertaker's strength in the WWE role-playing game.
What
the fuck are you talking about?
Never mind.
Oh my God.
And I don't need to know his exact stats, but they need to do something to differentiate him from Gamora.
Yeah.
I mean, make Drax the strong one and make Gamora the lithe killing machine, but not necessarily able to pick up a spaceship gun.
Right. Because if she picked up a giant gun off a spaceship, how is Peter Quill not dead from their first encounter?
Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's, fundamentally that's been, if I have a single major issue with the two movies, it's that Star-Lord, what the fuck is he good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Say it again.
But,
his superpower seems to be luck.
Long shot?
Ooh, nice deep cut into the X-Men universe. Mm-hmm. But he is a Celestial, so
not anymore.
Yeah, not
no,
so
but
much.
in the first movie he was.
So after this, he's just going to get the first time they get into a fight, he's just going to get shot in the face.
He's your Han Solo character. I mean, he has no powers. He's not a Jedi. He's just he's the best there is at what he does.
Hey, Bob. I think that's as good a time as any to...
Yeah, we wait.
We're going to run out of tape here, guys.
Yeah, we went long.
Kind of like the Trump Oval Office.
I was baiting Chris so hard there, and he just would
not bite.
You are a masturbator.
Now I have to cut before that, and it's not going to make any sense at all.
All right, we'll see you guys next week for episode 11.5.
Let's give them the email address.
Yeah, we should do that. If you want to bring up a topic, introduce a topic, hit us up on email at stayontopic111@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at Giltastrophe. And now you can hit up Bob Ricotta
at Bob Ricotta.
Or James Post
at PostJM9. Or visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/stayontopic111.
And we should really put some polls up and stuff.
Yeah. I've already got a poll up.
And the night's still young.
We were doing so well.
We really weren't.
We were sounding like professionals.
Play us off.
Guaranteed he leaves that in.